Alrighty, boys, and speaking of films that make Dylan think...
Hold on, what's this one? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about 1999's Fight Club. So, boys, Fight Club is a film that... Does the main character have a name? Do we ever get that?
He is only called the narrator.
Okay.
Tyler.
No, the main character.
We'll call him Joe Everyman. So Joe is a disillusioned office worker, okay? He has insomnia, it's real bad, so he ends up going to, some meetings to just get some good cries out. But ends up not being enough for the guy after, this dumb bitch comes in and ruins the whole thing. So he ends up meeting this cool guy named Tyler Durden, and the two, they grow closer as they start to work out their frustrations by just beating the shit out of each other, and this slowly grows into a massive fucking organization where a bunch of men come together and beat the shit out of each other, and from there it just continues to escalate into just general warfare amongst the people, and as it turns out, guys, this Tyler guy, he's not real. Tanner, what's your fun fact for this movie?
My fun fact about Fight Club, the narrator really did punch Brad Pitt in the ear. It was supposed to be fake, but the director right before the scene told him to really hit him.
Oh.
That's funny.
Yikes.
Dylan, how'd you feel about this one?
I'd much rather hear you guys talk about it first.
We'd much rather hear you talk about it first.
It was a very psychedelic movie. It has some funny, clip-ins every once in a while.
Did you enjoy it overall?
I don't know.
He's waiting to hear from us whether or not he enjoyed it.
He hasn't established an opinion yet. He needs more information.
He got stat checked by Fight Club, guys.
He did.
All right, Dylan, please give us your ranking right now before we proceed.
No, I have two rankings and they're differing, so...
What the fuck does that mean?
F minus and A plus.
No, and not that. Not that far apart. It has an interesting concept.
Dylan, would you say you get this movie?
I feel like there's a deeper message I'm probably missing, unless I'm not, in which case I would be surprised either way.
What do you think, if you had to take a shot in the dark at what the message is, what would you say?
I think this guy just has an extrapolating mental condition where he thinks that something's wrong with him, and he thinks he needs an out, he thinks he needs a fix because there's something actually wrong with him, because he has no healthy outlet, I guess, for his pre-existing problems. And since, it's kind of like being addicted to a drug, where once you had a hit, you kind of just need stronger and stronger doses as you go, until eventually it snowballs into an uncontrollable mess. And so, he's just completely unable to do anything about what's going on, and he's slowly losing his grasp on himself, which is what ends up happening towards the end of the movie, where he can't control Tyler. Tyler's out of control. Tyler's doing all this bizarre, weird shit, but it's really just him. But that's just him losing his mind and his sense of reality, and he's unable to grab it and save it before it is out of his own hands, even though he's the one that instigated it in the first place. And so he just figured that the best way to resolve it and to kind of cleanse himself of everything that's happened is to embrace it and to let it kind of fall where it lies, and then just start over with a clean slate. And for some reason, that's the solution to him solving his big mental crisis at the end of the day. I don't think I did an accurate or, apt job at
honestly, I don't think
movie,
that's a bad interpretation.
Let's fucking go. Let's hear what you guys have to say about this shit.
Guys, I'm so fucked up right now. I had so many notes written about this movie, and I apparently deleted them all after we talked about Concord.
Oh.
Damn. You can't undo or
no,
anything?
I don't have the option on here.
Holy fuck.
I apparently if you exit the file and then go back, you can't undo anymore.
Yikes.
Oh no.
It's kind of ironic because you guys tell me to write notes, but here we are. You can't
what does
remember
that have to do
anything.
with anything?
I don't know if that's ironic. You still wrote the notes.
This is definitely the first movie in quite some time that I really latched onto. I think this movie's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I really like the concept behind it of I just really like psychological things, where they kind of play with the audience specifically. I think our main character is a very engaging protagonist, especially once Tyler gets in the mix and you get to see their dynamic in the way that he kind of riffs off him. I think it's cool, especially just even thinking after the twist happens and just thinking about things throughout the film of oh yeah, how the fuck could this possibly work with Tyler only being a figment of his imagination. Like, how the fuck did any of this make sense? And then kind of just like putting the pieces together retroactively, which is cool. I think stuff like that's fun. I thought the acting was really well done. I think there's a lot of really clever shots in this movie. It's a very engaging movie to watch just from like a cinematography perspective. I think the soundtrack is pretty fucking cool too. I honestly have nothing fucking negative to say about this. I think this fucking movie's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. Tanner, would you like to tell us all about how you think that Tyler is a based golden god who did nothing wrong in this film?
I'm actually going the exact opposite direction.
Dude, no way.
Some of the major themes of this movie are like consumerism, masculinity, and specifically like the way masculinity is, I don't know, my brain is telling me to say undermined. I don't know if that would really be it, but like the way masculinity in the modern era where, you know, your average man is not like out tilling the fields or doing traditionally masculine things, what that does to a man's sense of masculinity. And I think it's kind of sort of a warning siren against like what happens if you do not give yourself healthy outlets for like your masculine energy, if you want to call it. And what happens is you start random street fights and then a terrorist organization.
Yeah, it's generally like a message to like all the like just sort of like lost, resentful men who have like no idea of what exactly they're supposed to be doing with their lives, or like how to like, you know, really be a generally healthy person.
Yeah. Now, if the narrator had, instead of, you know, becoming a schizophrenic, just started going to the gym, he probably would have been fine.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember having a very distinct thought almost halfway through this movie when they started like getting people to do some crazy shit. I was like, this is how cults are started, and that's about as far as that thought went.
And
that
you
is
fucking
true.
nailed that thought, dude.
Yeah, I know. I continued down the movie. I was like, ah, shit, I was right.
Yeah, but yeah, this movie is great acting, brilliantly written. The dialogue is great. It very much, and you know, the editing, holy shit, it makes me think of like The Big Short or any of those movies we've seen where it's like very snappily edited, lots of stuff to keep your attention while also having like little subliminal messages and whatever. Obviously, Dylan pointed out how like before we even ever meet Tyler, we see like single frames of him popping in and out, which is then called back to when he has that fake job as a projectionist, inserting like single frames of porn into kids' movies.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's in case you didn't catch it before. You're like, oh, I wonder if they were doing that in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like, you know, the character of Tyler Durden, he's constantly like the film, like, you know, kind of makes it be like, oh man, like this stuff that Tyler's doing, it's like so cool or whatever. And it's like, oh, is Tyler right about like society and stuff like that? Like, I feel like a lot of young men nowadays will definitely resonate with the sort of things like Tyler's saying throughout this film. But Tyler's ideas are definitely very fucking stupid. Just generally speaking here, because like his big overarching plan here is to like fucking blow up all the credit bureaus or whatever the fuck, or like just general like random credit card company buildings to like erase everyone's debt. That's not at all how that works.
Yeah.
And
even if you do erase everyone's debt, like how long till they just end up in debt again? Like how much of a difference would that even actually make?
Yeah. Or like one of the
is
like
that
really
even like necessarily, you could also look at it from the perspective of like, is that even necessarily like the goal? Obviously Project Mayhem or whatever it's called initially just starts out as them kind of just fucking around to let out their, you know, masculine urges. Maybe they could have just used that, even if it wasn't actually going to help in the long run, but it was just kind of an excuse to get more people into it. You know, you could look at it, you know, from like a meta perspective, like as this is a kind of a pointless endeavor. It was entirely just for recruitment and just it's like a project they can all work on. So you know, guys like watching big fucking explosions. At least that's my defense of how you could do it, and I think it makes sense personally.
I can kind of see that, yeah.
Yeah, potentially.
And yeah, I agree with what Nico is saying here. It reminds me of how like, yeah, young men, when you're in this movie is also like with you know, the Hitler movie, it's very much like, oh, things are still very fucking relevant now. Or like when you feel like you're living in a society that doesn't allow you to express masculinity, sometimes you will embrace people who are like bad examples of it.
Yeah. Look at Andrew Tate. I'm staring you down the barrel right now, Buster.
Yeah, guys like Andrew Tate who have no chin. And then Tyler Durden, who is like a homeless vagrant who has, I mean, he has jobs, I guess, so like at least he's employed, but like, yeah, he lives in a fucking broken down shack. He's just fucking whores all day. Like, it's not a life that you want, you know?
But he sounds so cool, dude.
He's so cool. He's so aloof, dude. I want to not care about anything ever.
Well, you see, he's unrestrained by like all this fucking like corporatism and like consumerism that we have going on, okay? All you need to do is follow him and be exactly like him and completely remove your sense of self and just like, stop being a slave to the corporate overlords and instead become his slave, okay? That's the only way of going about things here.
Tyler believes in what can be unburdened by what has been.
There's also like the big scene with him where he's, he has the gun to that dude's head and he's yelling at him like, what did you want to be back in college? Okay, all this shit. And then, he lets him go. He runs off. Tyler gives like the spiel about how like, he's finally going to start following his dreams. Tomorrow, he's going to wake up, he's going to eat some cereal, and damn, it's going to be like the best food he's ever had in his life. But like, I don't think that is what's going to happen, Tyler. I think he's going to be fucking terrified, and he's not going to like that he has to go back to school and like be fucking pressured that if he doesn't do well, you're going to show up one day and fucking murder him, dude.
Right.
I would agree, but I think the scene's primarily just to fucking glaze this movie some more. I think their perspective is mostly just kind of to talk to the audience about it. Specifically, they're kind of a lot of the time throughout this movie, they're trying to pose the question of, if you die, like what would be like a regret of yourself if you die? And I think it's primarily just like a meta thing of like this is just them showing, we're kind of like asking the audience the question almost, like if you had a gun pointed to your head and you were about to die, what the fuck would you want to do? What would be your goals? I think it's kind of just trying to do that. I would agree. Probably the guy would be freaked the fuck out. I think he'd be trying to leave the country or something. But I don't think that's the point.
I think it might be the point, dude. I think that the director really wants us to understand that Tyler's a fucking psycho and he doesn't know what he's talking about.
You're saying that this movie's not trying to be introspective?
No, it is, absolutely. But at the same time, like, maybe don't follow the things that Tyler Durden's trying to teach you about.
Fair enough, dude, I guess. I don't know.
He's got good and bad points about it. I don't think he's supposed to just be entirely a negative thing. It is, in fact, kind of like an idealized version of himself. And of course, there's some positives that go along with that.
Yeah, which, like, I'm a big fan of the unreliable narrator trope. I fucking love that shit. Like, when he starts, like, talking about, when Tyler, rather, is going about, like, his backstory and stuff like that, where do you think, like, that stuff came from? Like, is that like the reality of like what the narrator's like real like past is, or is this just like some random thing that he thought of it's like, oh yeah, this would be like a cool thing for Tyler to be when he was a child?
I interpreted it as like, yeah, that's his exact same thing, because I feel like when he's saying that and Tyler gives that like one spiel about his father, well, at one point in that conversation the narrator literally goes, oh yeah, me too, and then he goes on another spiel about his life, and then the narrator gets like a weird quizzical look on his face, and so I think that was signaling that, that's strange, we have the exact same upbringing as each other.
Yeah, we're just boys who are raised by women or whatever.
There's a lot of like fun little hints throughout the movie that are pretty subtle about, things. I think they're cool, like that, hint to Tyler not being real. Like one of them that's really hard to fucking catch is on the phone, like the toll booth number that he calls Tyler on. When they zoom into him like punching in the keys, or when Tyler calls him back, it actually shows there's like a no return calls sticker on it, which is like a subtle little giveaway. They live on the fucking house they're on is like Paper Street, which is kind of like some default like this place doesn't exist address. There's a lot of like little tiny things like that throughout the movie, which I enjoy. Oh, and another big one too is actually with the car scene, which I think the car scene was cool, where he's fucking like taking the wheel of his own life and he has to think about it really live in the moment or else he'll die. When they crash, Tyler gets out of the car on the passenger side. He's like totally fine and nobody really pays attention to him. But they fucking drag the main character out of the driver's seat. So obviously he's the one that was driving the car and crashed, and you could figure it out from that too, but it's kind of hard to tell in the moment.
I mean, to be completely fair, without any contextual clues, my brain was like like when he met him on the plane, my brain was like, this guy isn't real. There's no way this guy's real. This is a figment of his imagination that he made up to like cope with his reality. And then I never revisited that thought again. But then when you got the call back on the telephone booth, I was like, those calls, like those booths aren't supposed to receive calls. So, and I for some reason completely threw that idea out the window, and I forgot that.
Like, it's just a movie, whatever.
I guess in the back of my mind, I was like, I also thought Marla was fake too, so don't get me wrong. But I guess in the back of my mind, when it was revealed that Tyler was just a being of his subconscious, I wasn't super shocked about it, I guess you could say. But I think it was played very well throughout the movie, so even though I knew it, I thought it was still very well executed.
Yeah, I mean, like, as far as, like, you think of that, like, oh, like, Marla's also fake, that does kind of lead to some sort of ideas of, like, well, like, how much of what is going on here is actually real, Like, I know that there's also a scene where he's, like, walking to the bar when he's trying to find Tyler. As he's walking by the bar, like, there isn't a bartender there, but then, like, the bartender just, like, appears, and he's like, oh, hey, you're looking for Tyler or whatever. Like, is that just, like, some weird continuity thing, or is it sort of, like, leading to the idea that, like, oh, maybe not a lot of this is actually happening right now? Who's to say? Like, yeah. It's tough,
that's
man.
That's why the CGI explosions on those credit card buildings look so bad. It's all a dream.
Yeah, it's not real.
That was intentional.
Yeah, I guess I'm about tapped out on my information for Fight Club here. Do we have any final thoughts on this film?
No, sir. Go watch it. Required watching for men.
Yeah. Yeah, very scary just how applicable all this shit still is today. Perhaps even more so, definitely more so than it was back then, I think.
Yeah, it is shockingly irrelevant.
Yeah. Very terrifying.
I don't know what I think in the last 25 years, consumerism has actually decreased.
Yeah, all these dating apps and stuff, they can only be good for a man's psyche, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I guess I'll kick off our ratings here. I really liked this film, guys. I thought Fight Club was real solid. Call me a stereotypical guy, but I'm going to give this one an S tier. Dylan, how about you, dude? Which of your two rankings are you going for?
I have 4 rankings now.
4 rankings now? What do you mean?
What does that even mean?
Yeah, what the fuck does that even mean?
These are all the rankings I've, come to a conclusion of at some point in time.
Clearly there are no conclusions being drawn if you have 4 of them.
They're not that far apart.
Which one are you going with?
I don't know.
What are you...
I'm looking over my list again. Somebody else go.
Okay. I also gave it an S.
There we go. Alright, Dylan, has that inspired you?
Inspired, no. Had enough time, also, no.
How much time did it possibly take? You had the entire discussion. We've been talking about this shit forever.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the conversation at hand, not where I was ranking the movie.
Yeah, he's comparing it to where he's ranked other stuff right now.
Yeah.
He's currently idling around a B, and he's considering if that's too bold or not.
I can't do that to No Country Old Men and Fight Club.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh, you're just okay. We're just waiting for me. Okay.
I want to pick us back up if you let us down.
I mean, if you didn't like it that much, you didn't like it that much.
I did like it. I'm trying to figure out which of the two I'm going to try to put. Damn. Let's go with S tier. Yeah, S tier.
Buddy, you sound so convinced.
Out of curiosity, what were the 3 other rankings you were considering?
Let's. I'll go into this after we end the recording. This is gonna be real.
He doesn't want on the
guys.
He doesn't want us flaming him on the podcast.
No. It's gonna be funny. You guys are gonna think I'm fucking insane. Anyway, go.
Well, if it's
Jackson.
funny, shouldn't it be on the podcast?
No, because I'm already an idiot enough on this podcast. I'm not nearly as dumb as I seem on the podcast. Go on,
Alright, Jackson, what are they? Round us out here.
Oh yeah, I definitely like this movie a lot more than you guys, as you could probably tell because I was fucking defending every single criticism you guys brought up. I give this movie an S+. I think this movie's fucking sick. I want to watch it. I already want to watch it again just because it's one of those movies where, just because of that reveal, I want to go back and like see if I can catch stuff and just appreciate it more. It has a ton of depth to it. You guys had your theory about what the movie's trying to imply, a lot of it with like masculinity, but there's a ton more different observations you can make about it and different like metaphors you can draw with stuff. Like you could go with like a completely different route of like, this is all just like he's just really fucking lonely, and he finally meets somebody that he like kind of sees a connection with, but he can't really make it work, you know, that being Marla. And he kind of just goes insane with that, with like a kind of fucked up relationship. And then, he finally gets rid of that when he kind of accepts who he is and works it out with her. And that's why, fucking Tyler kind of goes away. Obviously, that's a pretty crackpot theory, but I'm just trying to imply that there's a lot of different angles you could look at with this movie. And I fucking love movies like that, like movies that are real thinkers, Plenty of different people can look at it and get completely different endings for it, which I appreciate a lot. And of course, it's also very well shot and just a really well-made movie altogether. Outside of the timepiece things, like the bad CGI, but what the fuck can you do about that?
Considering that Jackson has now given an S+ to Fight Club and Joker, we need to make him the
ideal man.
we need to make him watch Scarface now.
There we go.
He'll fucking love that shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it landed at an S overall, unsurprisingly.
Obviously.
Yeah.